Kyle Morrison stood in the massive chamber and looked around. The room was huge, made entirely of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. All around him sat aliens from different worlds. Some looked like giant lizards. Others were floating balls of light. A few looked almost human, but with strange colors and extra arms. This was the Galactic Council, and Kyle was here to speak for all of humanity. Kyle had been an ambassador for 10 years, but nothing prepared him for this moment. Behind him stood Sophie Grant, a young officer who helped him with all the technical information. She wore her military uniform and carried a data pad that showed information about Earth and its people. The Council had been around for 12,000 years. 47 different alien species worked together here, making rules and keeping peace in the galaxy. Humans had only been traveling between stars for 200 years. That was nothing compared to these ancient civilizations. Ambassador Morrison from Earth. A deep voice boomed through the chamber. It came from Kelvor, a creature that looked like a dragon standing on 2 legs. His scales were dark green and his eyes glowed red. You have requested membership in our council. Why should we accept your species? Kyle took a deep breath. He knew this would not be easy. The council thought humans were primitive and young. They saw Earth's small fleet of 300 ships and laughed. The other species had thousands of ships, some even had tens of thousands. We have advanced technology, Kyle said clearly. We have learned how to travel faster than light. We have colonies on 12 worlds. We have peaceful relations with the 3 species we have met so far. Another alien spoke up. This one was called Veron, and it was the leader of the council. Veron looked like a floating crystal that changed colors when it talked. Right now it glowed orange, which Kyle had learned meant the creature was thinking carefully. Your technology is basic compared to ours, Veron said. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are weak. You have not even mastered quantum technology fully. Most species need at least 500 years of space travel before they are ready to join us. Sophie touched Kyle's arm and showed him her data pad. The screen displayed Earth's achievements. Humans had developed fusion power, artificial intelligence, and advanced medicine. They had survived wars and diseases. They had learned to work together mostly. We may be young, Kyle replied, but we are quick learners. We are strong. We are determined. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. The chamber filled with noise as different aliens talked to each other in their own languages. Some made clicking sounds. Others hummed or whistled. Kyle could not understand most of it, but he could tell they were debating about humanity. Kelvor laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. You want to prove yourselves very well? We have a test for new species. It is called the entrance examination. Every species that joins the council must pass it. Kyle felt his heart beat faster. He had read about this test in the council's public records. It was a combat simulation, a war game that tested how well a species could defend itself. Most species took weeks or even months to complete it. Some failed entirely. We accept, Kyle said firmly. What are the terms? Farron's crystal body turned bright yellow, which meant surprise. Apparently the council had not expected humans to agree so quickly. The floating crystal moved closer to Kyle, studying him carefully. You will be given control of Sector 9, Veron explained. This sector contains 3 colony worlds and 7 resource stations. You must defend them against an invasion force of 2,000 ships. These ships will be controlled by our most advanced tactical computer programs. You will have 72 hours to prepare your defenses. Sophie gasped quietly behind Kyle. 2,000 ships against 300. The odds were terrible. But Kyle kept his face calm. He had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat. He knew that wars were not always won by the side with more ships. How long do most species take to complete this test? Kyle asked. The average time is 37 days, Veron answered. The fastest completion was 9 days, achieved by the Corthan Collective. They are considered to have the finest military in the galaxy. Kyle nodded slowly. He could see what the council was thinking. They expected humans to fail or barely survive. They wanted to teach humanity a lesson about being too proud and too eager. We accept your terms, Kyle said. When does the test begin? Immediately, Kelvor said with another grinding laugh. Your fleet is already being moved to Sector 9. The invasion will begin in exactly 72 hours. May your gods help you, human. Kyle turned and walked out of the chamber with Sophie following close behind. Once they were in the hallway, Sophie spoke quietly. Sir, those odds are impossible. 2,000 against 300. We will be destroyed. Kyle smiled for the first time since arriving at the council. Sophie, the council has been peaceful for so long they have forgotten what real war looks like. They fight slowly, carefully, trying not to lose too many ships. They think war is like a chess game. And we think differently? Sophie asked. We know differently, Kyle corrected her. Humans have fought wars for thousands of years. Real wars, terrible wars. We learned that the only way to win is to hit hard, hit fast, and never stop hitting until the enemy cannot fight anymore. They reached their ship, a small diplomatic vessel that would take them back to the human fleet. Kyle sat down and opened a communication channel to Admiral Greg Palmer, the commander of Earth's forces. Greg's face appeared on the screen. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in Earth's colonial wars 20 years ago and knew more about combat than anyone else in the fleet. Admiral, we have been accepted for the entrance examination, Kyle said. Sector 9, 2,000 enemy ships. 72 hours to prepare. Greg's expression did not change. He simply nodded. Good, I have been waiting for this. Kyle, tell the council we will do more than pass their test. We are going to shock them. How? Sophie asked from behind Kyle. Greg smiled, and it was not a kind smile. We are going to win this war in 5 hours. Kyle felt a chill run down his spine. 5 hours? It seemed impossible. But looking at Greg's confident face, Kyle started to believe it might actually happen. I will inform the council of our acceptance, Kyle said. Good luck, Admiral. Luck has nothing to do with it, Greg replied. War is about planning, speed, and the will to do whatever it takes to win. The council is about to learn that humanity has all three. The screen went dark. Kyle sat back in his chair and thought about what was coming. The council expected a long, careful battle. They expected humans to defend their colonies and resource stations, to fight slowly and lose gradually. Instead, they were about to see something the galaxy had not witnessed in thousands of years. They were about to see humanity at war. Admiral Greg Palmer stood on the bridge of the ECS Defiant and studied the star map floating in front of him. The map showed Sector 9 in detail. 3 colony worlds glowed green on the display. New Boston was the largest, with 2 million human settlers. Terra Verde had 800,000 people. Frontier's Edge was the smallest, with only 300,000 colonists. 7 resource stations orbited different planets and moons, mining minerals and producing fuel. 72 hours seems generous, said Commander Lisa Hayes. She was Greg's second in command and had served with him for 15 years. Lisa was smart, quick, and understood how Greg thought. Most species would use all that time to build defenses. Most species fight wars the wrong way, Greg replied. He zoomed in on the map, highlighting the 3 colony worlds. They think defense wins wars. They are wrong. Offense wins wars. Speed wins wars. Aggression wins wars. Captain Ryan Scott entered the bridge. Ryan commanded the Fast Attack Wing, the smallest and quickest ships in the human fleet. He was young, only 32, but he had proven himself in combat against pirates and raiders. You wanted to see me, Admiral? Ryan asked. I want to show you both the plan, Greg said. He pressed some buttons and the map changed. Instead of showing defensive positions around the colonies, it showed attack routes. 3 groups of human ships pointing like arrows toward the center of the sector. Lisa leaned forward, studying the display carefully. We are not defending at all. We are attacking. Exactly, Greg confirmed. The Council's invasion force will enter the sector here. He pointed to the edge of the map. They will see our colonies and resource stations. They will think we are trying to protect everything. So they will split their forces to attack multiple targets at once. That is standard galactic tactics, Ryan said, nodding. Divide and conquer. But if we are not defending those targets, what happens to them? Some will be captured or destroyed, Greg admitted. The resource stations are not important. They can be rebuilt. As for the colonies, we will leave small defense forces at New Boston and Terra Verde. Frontier's Edge gets almost nothing. Lisa looked shocked. Admiral, you are using the colonies as bait? There are people living there. There are people on all 3 worlds, Greg said calmly. And the best way to protect them is to destroy the invasion force completely and quickly. If we spread our ships out to defend everything, we will lose slowly. The invasion force will pick us apart piece by piece. Instead, we concentrate our strength and hit them with everything we have got. Ryan was starting to understand. We let them think they are winning. They attack the colonies and stations. While they are moving into the sector, we attack their main fleet. Not just attack, Greg corrected. We destroy them, completely. No survivors, no retreat, no second chances. The Council's simulation will follow their standard invasion patterns. They will have command carriers in the back directing everything. Those carriers are our first targets. Lisa pulled up more information on her screen. The invasion force has 2,000 ships. We have 300. Even if we hit them by surprise, the numbers are against us. Numbers do not matter if you strike hard enough, Greg said. He had learned this lesson decades ago during Earth's colonial wars. Superior numbers meant nothing if you could not use them effectively. We will organize into 3 strike groups. Each group has 100 ships. Lisa, you command Strike Group Alpha with me. Ryan, you take Strike Group Beta. Helen Brooks commands Strike Group Gamma. Helen, Ryan said with surprise. She is a carrier commander. Her ship is not built for frontline combat. Her ship carries 200 fighters and bombers, Greg replied. I want all of them in the battle at once. The Council fights carefully, launching fighters in small groups to minimize losses. We launch everything immediately and overwhelm them. Lisa was looking at casualty projections on her screen. Her face was serious. Admiral, these numbers show we could lose 50 ships. Maybe more. That is almost 20% of our fleet. I know, Greg said quietly. War is not clean. People will die. Ships will be destroyed. But if we win quickly, we save more lives than if we fight slowly. A long war costs more than a short one, even if the short one is brutal. The 3 officers stood in silence for a moment. They all understood what Greg was asking them to do. It was not the galactic way of fighting. It was the human way. Fast, violent, and overwhelming. How long do we have? Ryan asked. 72 hours until the invasion starts, Greg answered. But we do not need 72 hours. We need 5. 5 hours, Lisa said. Admiral, you are serious about this. You really think we can win in 5 hours? I know we can, Greg said firmly. Because we are not going to give them time to think or adapt or retreat. From the moment they enter the sector, we attack. We do not stop attacking until every single enemy ship is destroyed. For the next 3 days, the human fleet prepared for battle. Every ship was loaded with maximum ammunition. Missile tubes were filled. Railguns were stocked with tungsten rounds. Energy weapons were charged to full capacity. The ships were being prepared to fire everything they had in the shortest possible time. Engineers pushed the reactors beyond normal safety limits. We need maximum power for the attack run, Greg had ordered. I do not care if it is dangerous. This battle will be over in 5 hours. The reactors only need to last that long. The ship crews trained constantly. They practiced firing sequences, reload drills, and damage control procedures. Ryan's pilots flew simulation after simulation, learning to attack in massive swarms rather than careful formations. Helen Brooks worked with her air wing commanders, planning how to launch 200 craft simultaneously. It had never been done before. Carrier doctrine said you launched fighters in waves, keeping some in reserve. But Greg wanted everything in space at once. We get one chance at this, Helen told her pilots. We launch together, we attack together, and we do not hold anything back. Some of you will not come back. I am being honest about that. But if we do this right, we end this war before most species would even begin fighting. The Marines, led by Commander Jack Sullivan, prepared for boarding operations. But these were not normal boarding actions. Jack's teams trained to enter enemy ships, plant explosives, and leave. They were not trying to capture ships. They were trying to destroy them from the inside. We are not conquerors, Jack told his Marines. We are destroyers. Get in, plant the charges, get out. The ship blows up and we move to the next target. Meanwhile, back at the Council headquarters, the alien delegates watched humanity's preparations with confusion. Kelvor, the dragon-like Vraxian, studied the sensor reports. They are concentrating their entire fleet, Kelvor said. This is foolish. They are leaving 2 colonies almost undefended. Veron, the Crystalline Council leader, was not so sure. The floating crystal had been reviewing Earth's history, reading about human wars. What it found was disturbing. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other. They had developed weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. They had fought wars that killed millions. Perhaps they know something we do not, Veron suggested. They are young and stupid, Kelvor replied. In 3 days they will learn what real warfare looks like. But Veron continued to worry. There was something about the humans that felt dangerous. They moved with purpose and confidence. Their Admiral Palmer had fought in wars before. He knew what he was doing. Aboard the Defiant, Greg gathered his command staff for one final meeting. The invasion would begin in 6 hours. Everyone knows their assignments, Greg said. Strike Group Alpha takes the command carriers. Strike Group Beta handles their screen vessels and support ships. Strike Group Gamma launches all fighters to swarm their main battle line. We hit them fast, we hit them hard, and we do not stop. What if they adapt? Lisa asked. The simulation is supposed to be smart. It will learn from our tactics. Learning takes time, Greg answered. We are not giving them time. From first contact to total destruction, 5 hours. They will not have time to adapt, Ryan spoke up. Admiral, the crew is ready. We know what we are doing. Let's show the Council what humans can do. Greg nodded. Get to your ships. In 5 hours, the galaxy is going to learn something important about humanity. We do not fight to survive. We fight to win. The officers left to return to their vessels. Greg stood alone on the bridge looking at the star map. In a few hours, this sector would become a battlefield. Ships would explode. People would die. It would be terrible and violent, but it would be quick, and quick was merciful in its own way. Admiral, Sophie Grant said from her station, message from Ambassador Morrison. The Council has sent observers to watch the battle. They want to see how we perform. Greg smiled coldly. Good, let them watch. Let them see what happens when you challenge humanity. The invasion force appeared exactly on schedule. 2,000 ships materialized at the edge of Sector 9 in a flash of blue light. They came out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, organized into neat rows and columns. It was beautiful in a way, like watching a machine work with precision. On the bridge of the Defiant, Lisa Hayes watched the sensors carefully. Enemy fleet detected. 2,000 vessels confirmed. They are organizing into 3 main groups. Greg Palmer stood with his arms crossed, studying the tactical display. The enemy fleet was splitting up, just as he had predicted. One group headed toward New Boston. Another moved toward Terra Verde. The third began advancing on Frontier's edge. They are following standard doctrine, Greg said calmly. Attack multiple targets, divide our forces, win through superior numbers. Predictable. Our defense forces at New Boston and Terra Verde are reporting they are ready, Sophie Grant reported from her station. They know to hold position and draw the enemy in. Good, Greg replied. He opened a channel to all ships in the human fleet. All vessels, this is Admiral Palmer. The enemy has entered the sector. They think they are hunting us. They are wrong. We are the hunters. All strike groups, begin attack run on my mark. The human fleet had been waiting in a position the enemy could not easily detect. They were hiding behind a large moon, their reactors running cool and quiet. Now, as the invasion force moved deeper into the sector, it was time to strike. Mark, Greg said. 300 human ships exploded into motion. Their reactors went to full power. Their engines burned bright as they accelerated to attack speed. Strike Group Alpha, led by the Defiant, aimed straight for the invasion fleet's command carriers. These were the big ships in the back, the ones controlling everything. Ryan Scott commanded Strike Group Beta from his fast attack cruiser. His ships were smaller and faster than the others. They shot forward like missiles, closing the distance with incredible speed. The enemy sensors detected them, but the readings seemed wrong. The human ships were moving much faster than they should be able to move. Strike Group Gamma, under Helen Brooks, moved into position to launch fighters. Her carrier, the Thunderchild, was designed to hold aircraft, not fight directly, but it carried enough small craft to darken the sky. The invasion fleet's tactical computer registered the human movement. It calculated distances and speeds. It determined that the human fleet was attacking rather than defending. This was unexpected. The computer began issuing new orders, trying to recall some ships to defend the command carriers. But the human fleet was moving too fast. They closed the distance in minutes. Greg had pushed his ships beyond normal safety limits. The engines were running hot. The reactors were operating at dangerous levels, but they only needed to work for 5 hours. After that, nothing else mattered. Enemy command carriers in range, Lisa announced. All weapons ready. Fire everything, Greg ordered. The human fleet opened fire with every weapon at once. Railguns launched solid tungsten rounds at a significant fraction of the speed of light. Missiles poured out of launch tubes by the hundreds. Energy weapons lit up space with beams of focused power. It was not careful or precise. It was overwhelming. The first command carrier's shields lasted exactly 3 seconds. The concentrated fire from 30 human ships hit it at once. The shields glowed bright, overloaded, and collapsed. The follow-up strikes tore through the carrier's armor. Explosions rippled across its hull. In less than a minute, the massive ship broke apart. "Target destroyed," Lisa reported, moving to second command carrier. The invasion fleet was trying to respond. Ships turned to face the human attack. Point defense systems activated, shooting down incoming missiles. But there were too many missiles. Too many tungsten rounds. Too many energy beams. The humans were firing at a rate that seemed impossible to sustain. "They are burning through ammunition," one of the Council observers noted from their safe position outside the sector. "They cannot maintain this rate of fire for long." "They do not need to," Veron replied quietly. The crystalline being was beginning to understand. They planned to end this quickly. Back in the battle, Ryan Scott's fast attack group hit the invasion fleet's screen vessels. These were the ships meant to protect the carriers. They were tough, with good shields and weapons. But they were designed to fight in organized formations with support from other ships. The human ships did not fight in organized formations. They attacked like wolves, moving fast and hitting from multiple angles. Ryan's captains had studied Earth's naval warfare, back when ships fought on oceans. They used those old tactics now, adapted for space. "All ships execute pattern Delta," Ryan ordered. His vessels split into smaller groups, each targeting a different enemy ship. They came in fast, fired at close range, and moved away before the enemy could respond effectively. One enemy cruiser exploded under the assault. Then another. Ryan's group was smaller than the invasion ships, but speed made them hard to hit. And they were not trying to win a fair fight. They were trying to destroy the enemy before the enemy could organize a proper defense. Helen Brooks watched her tactical display as the moment approached. Her fighters were ready. 200 small craft, each with a pilot who knew they might not survive the next hour. "All wings launch now," Helen commanded. The Thunder Child's launch bays opened. Fighters and bombers poured out in a massive wave. They did not launch in careful formations. They launched together all at once, a swarm of metal and weapons. The invasion fleet's sensors registered the fighters and tried to calculate an appropriate response. The tactical computer was confused. Why would the humans launch everything at once? It left the carrier defenseless. It was not logical, but logic did not matter when 200 human fighters attacked together. They moved in a cloud, overwhelming the enemy's targeting systems. Point defense could only shoot down so many targets. When hundreds attacked at once, many got through. The fighters focused on the invasion fleet's support ships. Fuel tankers exploded in brilliant fireballs. Supply vessels broke apart. Communication ships went silent. The invasion fleet was losing its ability to coordinate and support itself. Greg watched the tactical display with satisfaction. 30 minutes into the battle, and the invasion force had already lost its command structure and much of its support capability. The remaining ships were trying to organize a defense, but they were reacting instead of acting. That meant the humans controlled the tempo of the battle. "Strike Group Alpha, continue assault on remaining command vessels," Greg ordered. "Do not give them time to regroup." Lisa was coordinating the attack with brutal efficiency. "Concentrate fire on Carrier Group 2. All ships, mark targets and fire on my signal." Another carrier died under the massed fire. The invasion fleet's computer was trying to adapt, moving ships into defensive positions. But the human fleet was not stopping to let them reorganize. Commander Jack Sullivan's Marines were executing their own part of the plan. Small assault ships approached disabled enemy vessels. Boarding teams used precision jumps to get directly next to the enemy hulls. Cutting charges opened holes in the armor. Marines poured inside, but they were not there to capture the ships. Each team carried high explosive charges. They moved through the enemy vessels quickly, planting bombs in critical locations. Then they left just as fast. "Charges planted on Target 7, Jack reported. "Team is clear." The enemy ship exploded from the inside. Then another, and another. The invasion fleet was losing ships not just from direct combat, but from internal sabotage. In the council chambers, the observers watched in growing horror. This was not warfare as they understood it. This was savagery. The humans fought with a ferocity that had not been seen in the galaxy for thousands of years. "They are taking significant casualties," Kelvor noted. The human fleet had lost 15 ships so far. "This is not sustainable." "But they are winning," Veron replied. The council leader's crystalline form pulsed with dark colors that indicated deep concern. In 30 minutes, they have destroyed or disabled 400 enemy ships. The invasion force is collapsing. It was true. The invasion fleet's organized structure was falling apart. Ships were trying to retreat, but the human fleet would not let them disengage. Every time an enemy vessel tried to break away and activate its faster-than-light drive, human ships pursued and destroyed it. Greg opened a fleet-wide channel. All vessels, this is the Admiral. You are performing perfectly. The enemy is broken. Do not let up. Do not slow down. We end this now. The battle continued with mechanical precision and human fury. The invasion fleet tried everything. They attempted to form defensive spheres. The human fleet broke through them. They tried to scatter and escape. The human fleet hunted them down. They tried to fight back with concentrated fire. The human fleet simply accepted the casualties and kept attacking. By the end of the first hour, 600 invasion ships were destroyed. The human fleet had lost 20 vessels, but the rest kept fighting. Their weapons were getting hot. Their ammunition was running low. But they had planned for this. They had loaded every ship with maximum ordnance specifically to fight one single, overwhelming battle. Enemy fleet is attempting to rally near frontier's edge, Sophie reported. About 800 ships are grouping together. Do not let them organize. The second hour of the battle was when the invasion fleet truly understood what was happening. Their tactical computer had analyzed the human tactics and came to a simple conclusion. The humans were willing to sacrifice everything to win. This was not a simulation to test defensive capability. This had become a war of extermination. The 800 remaining ships of the invasion force gathered near frontier's edge, trying to form a unified defense. Their commanders, controlled by the sophisticated tactical program, attempted to use the colony as a shield. Surely the humans would not risk civilian lives by attacking so close to their own settlement. They were wrong. Admiral Greg Palmer saw the enemy formation and understood their strategy immediately. They think we will hesitate to fight near the colony. Lisa, inform Frontier's Edge to activate emergency shelters. All civilians underground in the next 10 minutes. Admiral, some people will not make it to shelter in time, Lisa Hayes warned. If we attack now, the collateral damage could be significant. Greg's face was hard. If we do not attack now, we give them time to organize. An organized enemy will fight longer. A longer fight means more of our ships destroyed. More of our people dead. We attack now, the orders went out. On Frontier's Edge, emergency sirens wailed. 300,000 colonists rushed for underground bunkers. Parents grabbed their children. The elderly were helped by neighbors. It was chaos, but it was organized chaos. These colonists had practiced emergency drills. They knew what to do. Ryan Scott's fast attack group moved into position, cutting off the invasion fleet's possible retreat vectors. His ships were running hot now. Their weapons had been firing for over an hour. Several of his vessels reported coolant systems were failing, but they kept fighting. Target their propulsion systems, Ryan ordered. If they cannot move, they cannot escape. His ships focused their fire on the engine sections of enemy vessels. Precise strikes hit reactor housings and drive cores. Ships that lost propulsion became sitting targets. The human fleet picked them off one by one. Strike Group Gamma's fighters were performing beyond expectations. Helen Brooks had lost 43 fighters so far, but the remaining pilots continued their assault with determination. They attacked the enemy fleet's smaller vessels, the frigates and destroyers that supported the larger ships. One fighter pilot, a woman named Katie Spencer, was on her 5th attack run. Her craft was damaged. Her shields were gone. Her left engine was leaking coolant. But she had 3 missiles left and there were still targets to hit. Blue 7, you are ordered to return to the carrier. Helen's voice came over the radio. Your ship is too damaged. Negative, Thunderchild, Katie replied. I still have weapons. I still have targets. I'm staying in the fight. Katie aimed her battered fighter at an enemy supply ship and fired her remaining missiles. All 3 hit. The supply ship exploded. Katie did not see it. Her fighter had finally given up. The engines failed. Life support was fading. She activated her emergency beacon and hoped someone would pick her up before her oxygen ran out. Stories like Katie's were happening across the battlefield. Human pilots and crews fighting beyond the point where most species would surrender. The council observers watched in amazement and horror. Their casualties are approaching 15%, Kelvor said. Why do they not retreat? Why do they not ask for a ceasefire? Because they believe they are winning, Baron answered. And they are correct. The invasion fleet tried one last major offensive. The tactical computer calculated that a concentrated attack on Strike Group Alpha might break the human formation. If they could destroy the Defiant and kill Admiral Palmer, perhaps the human fleet would become disorganized. 500 ships turned and charged directly at Greg's position. It was a desperate move, but it might work. The invasion ships activated their remaining weapons and fired everything they had. The Defiant shook under multiple impacts. Shields flared bright and started failing. Hull armor took direct hits. Explosions rippled through several decks. Damage reports flooded in. Shields at 30%, Sophie Grant reported, her voice calm despite the chaos. Hull breaches on decks 9 and 12. Fire suppression systems active. All ships, close formation, Greg ordered. Concentrate defensive fire. Do not let them through. Strike Group Alpha's remaining ships moved together, their combined shields overlapping to provide maximum protection. They fired their point defense weapons, destroying incoming missiles and shooting down torpedoes. It was a defensive battle now, but only temporarily. Enemy charge is losing momentum, Lisa observed. They are running out of ammunition. It was the fatal flaw in the invasion fleet's strategy. They had been designed for a long, careful war. Their ships carried enough ammunition for weeks of fighting. But they had been in a massive battle for 2 hours now, fighting at an intensity they were not prepared for. Their magazines were running dry. The human ships, meanwhile, had loaded maximum ammunition specifically for this fight. They had more reserves. When the invasion fleet's fire began to slacken, Greg immediately went on the offensive again. All ships forward assault, Greg commanded. Break through their formation. Scatter them. The Defiant, damaged but still functional, led the charge. The human fleet pushed through the enemy formation like a hammer through glass. Enemy ships tried to maneuver, but they were too slow. The human vessels were faster, more aggressive, and completely committed to the attack. Commander Jack Sullivan's Marines were still conducting boarding operations. But the enemy ships were starting to fight back harder now. They knew what the Marines were trying to do. They had sealed their bulkheads and posted guards at critical locations. Jack personally led one boarding team onto an enemy battleship. His squad of 20 Marines cut through the hull and entered a darkened corridor. Immediately they came under fire from alien soldiers. Suppressing fire, Jack ordered. His Marines advanced using their weapons to drive the enemy back. They moved with practiced efficiency, years of training taking over. The objective was the reactor room. Jack's team fought through 3 decks, taking casualties but never stopping. 2 Marines were killed. 5 more were wounded, but they reached the reactor and planted their charges. Charges set, Jack reported. Team evacuating now. They ran back to their entry point, fighting all the way. The enemy was trying to stop them, but the Marines were trained for this kind of operation. They reached their assault ship with seconds to spare. As they pulled away, the enemy battleship exploded behind them. By the 3rd hour, the invasion fleet was in full retreat. The tactical computer had finally concluded that victory was impossible. It ordered all remaining ships to disengage and escape the sector. But the human fleet had anticipated this. Ryan Scott's fast attack group was positioned exactly where retreating ships would try to go. As enemy vessels attempted to activate their faster-than-light drives, Ryan's ships hit them with precisely targeted strikes. You needed time and stable power to enter faster-than-light travel. The human attacks disrupted that process. Keep hitting them, Ryan ordered. Do not let a single ship escape. It was brutal work. Some enemy ships managed to jump away before being destroyed, but most were caught in the process. Their drives failed. Their ships became easy targets. The human fleet showed no mercy. Helen Brooks recalled her remaining fighters. Many pilots were low on ammunition and fuel. Their ships were damaged, but they had accomplished their mission. The invasion fleet's support structure was completely destroyed. All wings return to the Thunderchild, Helen ordered. You have done enough. Let the capital ships finish this. On the Defiance bridge, Greg Palmer watched the tactical display. The invasion force that had started with 2,000 ships was now down to less than 300. Those remaining vessels were scattered, disorganized, and trying desperately to escape. Admiral, some enemy ships are attempting to surrender, Sophie reported. They are broadcasting ceasefire requests. Greg's expression did not change. This is a simulation. The enemy ships are controlled by computer programs. They do not truly surrender. Ignore the transmissions and continue the attack. It was a cold decision, but it was correct. In a real war against thinking beings, Greg might have accepted surrender. But this was a test, and the test was to eliminate the invasion force. The Council had created this simulation. Now they would see it through to its conclusion. The fourth hour was cleanup. Human ships hunted down the remaining enemy vessels methodically. There was no longer any organized resistance. It was simply a matter of finding targets and destroying them. Lisa coordinated the search pattern. Grid by grid, sector by sector. Make sure we find every single ship. Some enemy vessels tried hiding near asteroids or behind moons. Human sensors found them anyway. A few tried to power down completely, hoping to be missed, but the human fleet was thorough. They checked every possible hiding spot. By the end of the fourth hour, less than 50 enemy ships remained. They were scattered across the entire sector, running on emergency power, unable to fight back effectively. Greg opened a channel to all his ships. 1 more hour. We finish this completely. No survivors, no witnesses, no enemy ships left to report what happened here. This is not cruelty. This is the completion of our mission. The human fleet continued its work with mechanical precision. The final hour was quiet compared to the chaos of the first 4. The human fleet moved through Sector 9 like hunters tracking the last remnants of prey. There was no glory in this part of the battle. It was simply necessary work that needed to be done. Commander Lisa Hayes coordinated the search from the Defiant. Her voice was tired but steady as she directed ships to check each quadrant of the sector. Strike Group Beta, check coordinates 7 Alpha. We detected a power signature there 15 minutes ago. Ryan Scott's Fast Attack Group moved to investigate. They found an enemy frigate hiding in the shadow of a large asteroid. The ship was powered down to minimal levels, hoping to avoid detection. It had almost worked. Target acquired, Ryan reported. Engaging now. The frigate did not even have time to power up its weapons. Ryan's ships fired once and it was over. Another enemy vessel destroyed. Another step closer to completing the mission. Admiral Greg Palmer sat in his command chair and watched the casualty report scroll across his screen. 47 ships lost, 8,216 personnel dead. Another 12,000 wounded. The medical bays on every surviving ship were full. Doctors and medics worked around the clock to save the injured. The resource stations that the invasion fleet had captured were destroyed. 2 had been blown up by the enemy. The other 5 had been caught in crossfire during the battle. They were total losses. It would take months to rebuild them. New Boston had suffered minor damage from a few missiles that got through the defensive screen. 17 buildings destroyed, 143 civilians dead. Terra Verde had been luckier, with only minor damage to orbital facilities. Frontier's Edge had evacuated everyone in time. The colony itself was untouched. By galactic standards, it was a disaster. By human standards, it was an acceptable cost for total victory. Admiral, we have located the last enemy vessel, Sophie Grant announced. It is drifting near the outer edge of the sector. No power, no weapons. It appears to be completely disabled. Greg stood and walked to the main display. He zoomed in on the coordinates. A single enemy destroyer floated in the darkness of space. Its hull was scarred from battle damage. Life support was failing. In a few more hours, everyone aboard would be dead even without the humans attacking it. Send 2 ships to confirm it is truly disabled, Greg ordered. If it is, destroy it. Sir, Sophie said quietly. That seems unnecessary. The ship is already dying. Greg turned to look at her. His face was tired, lined with stress, but his eyes were clear. The mission is to eliminate the invasion force. That ship is part of the invasion force. We complete the mission. 2 human frigates approached the disabled destroyer carefully. They scanned it thoroughly, confirming there were no hidden weapons, no traps, no possibility of the ship suddenly coming back to life. Then they fired. The destroyer exploded silently in the vacuum of space. All enemy vessels confirmed destroyed, Lisa reported. Sector 9 is clear. Greg looked at the chronometer. 4 hours and 53 minutes had passed since the invasion fleet first entered the sector. He had told Ambassador Kyle Morrison they would win in 5 hours. They had done it with 7 minutes to spare. Open a channel to the Council, Greg ordered. Inform them that Sector 9 has been successfully defended. The invasion force has been eliminated. The test is complete. Far away at the council headquarters, the observers sat in stunned silence. They had watched the entire battle unfold. They had seen warfare conducted with a speed and brutality that shocked them to their cores. Chancellor Veron's crystalline body pulsed with colors that indicated deep concern and confusion. The council leader had expected humanity to defend carefully, to preserve their forces, to fight the way civilized species fought. Instead, humanity had launched an all-out attack that prioritized victory over everything else. 5 hours, Veron said softly. They destroyed 2,000 ships in 5 hours. Kelvor, the Vraxian delegate who had mocked humanity at the beginning, said nothing. His red eyes stared at the tactical display showing the wreckage of the invasion force. Ships destroyed, simulated crews killed. A fleet that should have been nearly invincible had been annihilated. Their casualties were enormous, another delegate said. 15% of their fleet destroyed. Thousands of their people dead. Resources lost. Colonies damaged. But they won, Veron replied. Completely, decisively, they did not fight to survive. They fought to destroy. There is a difference. Ambassador Kyle Morrison arrived at the council chambers to hear the official results. He walked into the room with Sophie Grant at his side. The alien delegates turned to look at him. Some showed respect. Others showed fear. A few showed both. Ambassador Morrison, Chancellor Veron said formally, the Council has reviewed humanity's performance in the entrance examination. Your fleet eliminated the invasion force in 4 hours and 53 minutes. This is by far the fastest completion time in the history of the Council. Kyle nodded but said nothing. He waited for the formal decision. However, Veron continued, your tactics were extremely aggressive. Your casualties were high. You sacrificed resources and risked civilian populations. By galactic standards, your performance would be considered reckless. By human standards, Kyle replied calmly, our performance was efficient. The invasion force represented a threat to human colonies. We eliminated that threat as quickly and completely as possible. That is the purpose of military action. The council chamber filled with noise as delegates discussed this in their various languages. Some argued that humanity should be rejected for being too violent. Others argued that humanity had passed the test according to the rules. Still others worried about what it would mean to have such an aggressive species in the council. Chancellor Veron raised a crystalline appendage, and the chamber fell silent. The council leader glowed with a deep amber color, the shade of careful decision-making. The council recognizes humanity's successful completion of the entrance examination, Veron announced. Despite concerns about your methods, you achieved the objective within the established rules. Therefore, humanity is granted provisional Tier 2 status in the Galactic Council. Kyle felt relief wash over him, but he kept his expression neutral. We accept this status and thank the Council for this opportunity. However, Veron added, there will be a probationary period. Your species will be observed. Your actions will be monitored. The Council needs to determine if humanity can coexist peacefully with other species. We can and will, Kyle promised. Humanity does not seek war with the galaxy. We only wish to be treated as equals. Kelvor spoke up, his voice less arrogant than before. You have proven you can fight. But can you prove you can keep peace? Kyle met the Vraxian's eyes directly. We have fought countless wars among ourselves. We have killed each other for thousands of years. But we learned to stop. We learned to work together. We learned that peace is better than war. That is why we are ready to join the Council. The session ended and Kyle returned to the Defiant. Admiral Greg Palmer met him in the docking bay. The two men shook hands. We did it, Kyle said. We are in the Council. At a cost, Greg replied quietly. 8,000 people dead. 47 ships destroyed. Families will mourn. Children will grow up without parents. That is the price we paid. Would you have done anything differently? Kyle asked. Greg thought about it for a long moment. Then he shook his head. No, a slow battle would have cost more lives in the end. Quick and brutal is sometimes more merciful than slow and careful, but that does not make it easy to live with. The two men walked through the corridors of the Defiant. Around them, the crew was cleaning up battle damage and repairing systems. Medical teams were still treating the wounded. Engineers were assessing which ships could be repaired and which were total losses. The Council is afraid of us now, Kyle observed. I could see it in their eyes. Good, Greg said. Fear breeds respect. They will not challenge us lightly. They will think twice before testing us again. That fear might keep the peace better than any treaty. In the following days, word spread across the galaxy. A new species had joined the Council. A species that had achieved victory in just 5 hours. A species that fought with a ferocity not seen in thousands of years. Some civilizations were curious. Others were concerned. A few were outright terrified. But all of them respected humanity now. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity did not fight wars to barely survive. Humanity fought wars to win completely and decisively. On Earth, people celebrated the news of Council membership. Parades filled the streets. Politicians gave speeches about humanity's bright future among the stars. But in military academies and war colleges, instructors taught a different lesson to their students. Remember Sector 9, they would say. Remember what it cost to prove ourselves. 8,000 dead. 47 ships destroyed. Victory has a price and someone must always pay it. War should always be the last option. But when war becomes necessary, commit everything to win quickly. A short, brutal war is better than a long, bloody one. Admiral Greg Palmer retired 1 year later. He had served humanity for 40 years, fought in 3 wars, and commanded the fleet that shocked the galaxy. He spent his final days on a quiet colony world, far from the centers of power.